This is Dance Studio 411, where we answer your real-life questions about your toughest studio life predicaments. Parent problems, teacher turnover, student challenges, policy dilemmas, and so much more. Let's talk about what's keeping you awake at night and what you can do about it. Here are your hosts, Suzanne Blake Garrity and Jill Tyrone.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of our Dance Studio 411 podcast. In this episode, we're taking on some of the trends for 2020 and how you can stay ahead, stay informed, and most importantly, use this information to better your business and do all the things well. So, Jill, I'm excited about this topic today.
Yeah, this is great. Good timely information as we head into the new year and we feel really invigorated and raring to go. There's some fun little tips and tidbits that we have found through some surveys and different things that we've done and certainly the listening that I've been doing and reading. So we've got some good tips for trends for 2020.
Exactly. And this kind of comes off the heels too of the various seminars and classes we facilitate throughout the season, especially from this past, just the start of the year, really gathering up, the hot buttons. And sometimes the hot button issues are a sign that we're on to something, we're on to a trend. So one of the things that will not go away, it's here to stay. And whether you love it or hate it, it's all the social media. So why don't you start us off with one of our first trends to keep in mind?
Yeah, social media. We love it and we hate it. It is the bane of our existence, but we know we have to be there and we have to show up. So again, the continued rise of Instagram and Facebook stories. I think let's really just start out right there. It is the trend. It is not going away. It is going to just keep increasing as we head through the new year. So if you're not using your Instagram and Facebook stories for your studio yet, that's where we're going to encourage you to spend some time for sure. And we're seeing that even with Dance Studio Owner and some of the great industry leaders in the dance world. It's all about the stories, right, Suzanne?
It is. And, that disappearing content, Jill, I know some of our own kids at the studio, I do all of our social on Instagram because I feel like it helps me really stay in touch with what the kids are sharing. And when they tag the studio in their story, or if I miss it, if there's some I always feel so bad because I'm like, no, bring it back. It's so good. So
I know.
It's fun. I mean, what is if someone's like, oh God, I'm just scared to start my first Instagram or Facebook story, where do they start?
Gosh, just dive right in. That's the best way to do it. How else? That's how we learn to walk, right? We crawl along for a while and then we stand up and fall down and we crawl along a little bit more and we stand up and we walk a little bit further the next time. So my best advice is just to dive in and pick one. So, don't try to necessarily do both at the same time. But if you're old like me and you're well versed in Facebook, maybe start with Facebook stories just because that's where your platform is the most familiar to you. Or if you'd like Instagram, definitely start there, but and just watch. I love to listen and watch what's going on. That's how I pick up a lot of these trends as well. So if you haven't done any stories yet, watch what's happening and just look at them. And then you'll get a feel for what people are posting and how they're posting, but it's super fun.
Exactly. And our members at Dance Studio Owner, we give them a monthly content download and we're really excited because this year we're adding some cool images that could be used in stories, right?
Exactly. We're going to help you along and give you a good starter if you need something additional to add to your story. So we are evolving our content that we're putting out for you to help you with your social media. And that's one thing, as we know, we're going to take our own advice and listen to the trends for 2020. And that would be to help you with your stories.
Exactly. Which kind of leads us into the next tip or trend that we're seeing. I don't think it's necessarily a trend, but it's more important than ever, right, Jill? You teach on this topic, so I'll let you dive in on this one.
Yeah, I think we really need to make sure that everybody in the studio is working together on the social media as well. I think it's really important. Your studio needs a human voice, and whether you're doing it yourself or you're incorporating your teachers, but just empower them to give you some content, however you need to work through that. But everybody should be taking some part in the social media story of your studio.
Exactly. And that's what I do with my own teachers. I'm like, okay, any picture, any video, toss it over, text it up, let's curate this content together, because what you see is different than I see. And so I think that if we can just embrace our own uniqueness and not have to be worried about it so perfectly polished or all the ways, embrace your studio. It's what makes you you.
Yeah. And you know what? Your fans and your customers and those families that are either already with you or looking at your studio, they don't need it to be perfectly polished. I think that gives an image of, hey, maybe this isn't so much what real life is like in the studio. So I would actually welcome it to be a little human, right? Be very human on your social media. And that could be those quick candids. It could be, as I just even did, stumbled over my words. It happens. It's real life.
Exactly, which actually the next trend we're seeing in social media is both a blessing and a curse. It's the fact that our customers and our parents can reach us at all hours of the day and in these private locations. So Jill, let's talk about dark social.
Dark social. Oh, this is a great, if you haven't heard this phrase yet, you will this coming year. Dark social, basically it's the DMs on Instagram, Facebook Messenger. It's where people reach out. It really describes that invisible share that happens through the channels like the messengers and even email and text messages. It's really the stuff that's not out there for public consumption, but it's there. So like you mentioned, Suzanne, people are able to reach out to us now 24/7.
Right. So we have
365 days a year.
Exactly. And so as to not have our beloved studio owners burn out from the constant feeling at our own studio, we've had to basically have people go on assignment, so to speak, who on the weekend is watching the Facebook page for messaging. And you can automate the messaging, which if you haven't already done so, feel free to add an automated message. But usually they ask something that could be found on your website. This is going to lead into the next trend. They're asking questions that you actually already have answers to somewhere. So it's that they want to feel listened to. And so you have to have a strategy in place on how are you going to answer these questions? What are the scripts? And Jill, you talk a little bit about this, having some pre-written scripts, correct?
Yeah, definitely have those pre-written scripts. You'll see as you browse around different Facebook pages, even if it's not in the dance industry, it could be a store, local shop that you go to or something, but you might even get prompted and they might ask you questions. You can put those into your messengers so that if people are coming to the site, it pops up and it says, do you want to know our schedule? Yes. And then you can tell these people where to go to find that. So there are some automations and things to definitely set up. If you don't know how to do that, a simple Google search will help. It'll give you all the instructions and get those set up so that you're not feeling like you really need to be answering things at 11 o'clock at night. Set the expectation, right? So I'm seeing some really fabulous studio communication, whether it's coming back to me in an automated email when I reach out to them, or I'm seeing it on social, but they are setting expectations that say our normal hours for answering are, and it might be like, 9 to 3 or 3 to 9 or whatever it may be, but you set the expectation on when the person can actually get a response. Maybe it's 24 hours, maybe it's 48 hours. If you're in the middle of a show, I've even seen those messages pop up that will simply say, we are in one of the busiest times of the year. We love it, but guess what? Our response time is going to be a little bit slower.
Exactly. Yeah. Which leads us to our favorite topic, studio communications with the parents and the dancers. We love to we do a lot of our member training on these topics in our Facebook Live, in our groups, in our private member group, because it's constant. We have the job to communicate a lot of information as a studio, and they don't just have one or two channels, they have multiple. So one of the trends that we're noticing right now, especially with parents, is that adding video into email, literally videoing your message and popping it into your email or on your Facebook group. We had a studio owner come up to us at one of our seminars and she said, I had a parent come into the office and she said, I saw you sent an email. Will you just read it to me? Of course you would. Let me just read. Why not read it to you? Okay, great. If this mom is sitting in the office, has the email on her phone, but wants the studio owner to read it to her, why not read it to everybody?
Yes. Why not read it to everybody? And we love this. I think this is a really good solid tip for heading into this age where we are so short on time. We're not reading long content anymore. So why not? Why not videotape and video those messages out there? I think it's a great idea.
Shoot the video, put it on the place, and then they have it because they can just open it on their phone, which actually is the other trend we know for sure is that parents want you to spoon feed them the information that they only need for their dancer. So don't cloud it up with everybody. You have to be able to break it down for their dancer in particular. And there's ways to do that, customizing your communications, personalizing your emails, segmenting out your customer base. I mean, we can go on, but pick a primary channel of communication and do it well. And then make sure that everything else you're communicating can be found in places on your website or on social that while you're sleeping in your bed at night, parents can find the information, right, Jill?
Yeah, because that's what happens. I mean, I'm a prime example. It's, 9:00 at night and everything's settled down. And then I remember, oh, what was that nutcracker information that I needed? Where's the rehearsal schedule? Oh, program ads, those are due. What was that date it was due? And that's my time to sit down and go back and reread the email, look at the video, check the website, whatever it may be. And then I can, definitely put it in my calendar. So making it easy for those parents to get that customized information right away.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, we could say all sorts of things about studio communication, but let me tell you, they're not reading your email. Sorry, guys. They're not. So
they're not. Yeah. You're going to have to do multiple channels, multiple ways, and just be prepared for the people that just say that I didn't get it. I didn't see it. It's going to happen.
It is. So that brings us to our next trend, which is sort of the evolution of the dance programs. So in the world of what we would love it to be, is that everybody's registered by the start of the new season and they stay registered all the way through to the recital. But nowadays, the parents are like, oh, can I join this dance class in April to be in the show in May? And they think absolutely nothing of that being surprising when you say that it doesn't work that way. But however, if there's a trend, we have to watch for it and say, how can we have our business still serve some of this population that are typically new to dance? So one of the trends that we know for sure is this appealing to new beginners at every age, not just the preschool market, but new beginners at the elementary school level, new beginners at the teen program, new beginners at adults. So giving them like this very low barrier to entry to try dance and experience it without this really big, intense commitment.
I know. And this is a great trend. It's a great way of looking at things. We know that where we used to have those registrations that would come in August, start classes in September, finish up in May and June, it's just not happening the way it used to be. And that's because of fall sports. It's because of parents just being, both parents working long hours during the day, kids in daycare, all of that good stuff. We are just in a different place than we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago. So I love the fact that we're now seeing studio owners rising to the occasion and providing opportunities for people to dance of all ages, all abilities, all times of the year.
Yeah, you're right. It's the year-round studio. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing the more and more going to the year-round studio, that the programs don't stop. Yes, you have your performances, but all these opportunities to come into the programs year-round. So if that's something you're noticing and you're like, wow, I really wish I could have some help around that, we see it. Our members are talking about it. We're sharing ways to do it. And it's really important to also watch what dance genre is trending. What dance genre are they asking for that you maybe don't have or haven't considered, or at what age? There's a lot of good resources also on different programs that we've recommend as well, right, Jill?
Yeah, so that's definitely true. If you're getting the same question about acro or hip hop or ballet or whatever it may be, if you're starting to see some of those questions over and over again, then that's a very good indicator that there's something lacking at your studio or just in general in your area. And that would be some place to start, definitely. So I think when we pay attention to what's happening, we are going to definitely be able to move in that area and fill a void for those parents and for those people that are looking for an opportunity.
Exactly. We're not saying undermine your recital performance season. We're saying, where can you add, adapt, change, evolve? Just be open to it. There's so many awesome in-person and online programs that you can, certifications, curriculum, syllabus that that are available to you. So keep an eye open for that, right, Jill?
Yeah, there are a lot of certifications that we love to see. We have some great references and people that we love in our community, and they really hone in on the need for different areas, different genres, acro certifications, different stretching and strengthening certifications and programs that you can implement into your studio. So yeah.
I love it. Good. So last bit of the trend piece. I mean, we could talk about a lot of different places and trends we could go, but the last area that I think is so important to us here at dancestudioowner.com of what we train our members to be aware of and how to be this, it's that you are the studio culture creator. Your studio culture is gold. Mm-hmm. And when it's aligned with your mission and vision, you start to love your business. And that's why we created, keeping your passion for dance alive, because this is a hard business. There's nothing more complicated, than running a dance studio. I've convinced you.
For sure. I love that though. Studio culture creator. You are definitely creating the culture in your studio, and that who better to do that than you? This is why you started your business. This is why you're doing what you do. So we have some great resources that I think you want to mention, Suzanne, in the industry that will help you create the studio culture that you want. Maybe you're just starting out and you're like, oh, great. Yeah. Well, I know where I want to be, but I have no clue how to get there. So Suzanne, what are some of these great resources that we have? Yeah.
Luckily, we have some great resources that have turned this problem into solutions. And I will just say one more time, your culture does not happen. You have to create it. So the first person who I know very closely, as do you, Jill, is Jessica Michaels from Wingman for Dance, wingmanfordance.org. The program is extraordinary. It's something that was created out of the Wingman program that was in just regular schools. And Jessica has evolved it for the dance studio environment. There's team bonding, trust building activities that help inspire dancers to be empathetic, courageous, and inclusive young leaders. We have been rolling this out at our own studio. It's really great. It's so awesome.
It's phenomenal. And they offer basically like two levels. You can kind of do it yourself, the DIY, where you purchase the program, and there's a great community that surrounds it where you can immerse yourself into the Facebook group and really just for a very short period of time, implement all of these great team bonding and trust building activities in your studio. Or if you needed to go one step further, you can actually bring their master trainers into your studio to help you out that way. So Jessica's wonderful. The whole program is really stellar. And if you follow any of their social, they do an amazing job in the different organizations for sure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then the next program that we did a podcast not too long ago with Misty Lyle, and she's relaunching the Youth Protection Advocates in Dance program to make it more accessible to help you create the well-rounded dancer, both emotionally, socially, and physically, because there is a lot of opportunity in the studio environment to have the emotional health of our dancers influenced. We know it, but now life is becoming harder for teens and young people. And so you can go through their courses online to be really prepared as a staff to handle some of these challenging times for your dancers. So I definitely recommend you check out Youth Protection Advocates in Dance, YPAD, and because maybe it's just what you need right now to empower your teachers through all these changes.
Absolutely. Oh, such great advice. So Suzanne, we're right at the top of the end of our time here. So how do we want to wrap up all these great trends and tips for 2020?
Exactly. I think the best thing to do as a studio owner or teacher is to be aware that we're with you through the changing times. There's none of us here who have it all figured out. And so when you listen for trends, as you said too, Jill, just be a listener and a learner and be open-minded learners, that you will have such an advantage as you run your business, as you find joy in running your business, because like we said before, this is hard work, and you're doing great work. And it's easy to think, oh, is what I'm doing making a difference, or is this having any impact? Especially when we deal with the attrition of kids and kids losing interest. But no, you have to remember you are making a huge difference in your community. You add so much value to your students, and we just want you to feel like you know what's ahead so that you can adapt and evolve. We want you to stay in business and love your job.
Oh, for sure. And I love learning from our members. That's one of the best things for me, is to go through our Facebook group and see what everybody's asking and posting, and all of the great advice and tips that they lend to the other studio owners in our group. So yeah, if you're interested in more training, more of the resources that we've mentioned, certainly if you're not a member yet, we invite you to join our community. It's an amazing group of like-minded people who just encourage and support one another.
Exactly. So they go to dancestudioowner.com for that. Thanks everyone for your time. We look forward to a future episode of our podcast with you. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dance Studio 411. Visit us online at dancestudio411.com for more great resources and to submit a question for a future episode. Our number one goal is to help you build a successful dance studio business and keep your passion for dance alive.